as we get ready to go into this next generation of Nintendo Switch and whatever the successor to it is, I have been thinking a lot about what in the world Nintendo is going to do in the transition on how they make their games. For example, from the Wii U to the Switch was a very unique circumstance because they were abandoning that Wii U ship as fast as they could. There was almost no reason for them to release any games simultaneously on the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch moving forward because of how awful of a failure the Wii U was for them. So then why did they release both Breath of the Wild on the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch? Well, that was because they had promised Breath of the Wild for the Wii U for over 2.5-3 years at that point. Everyone had anticipated a Zelda game being on the Wii U, and so they fulfilled their promise to the customers on that basis. But they wanted it to be the primary launch title for the Nintendo Switch, because why wouldn't they want their biggest and best game probably ever to be on that system? Breath of the Wild went on to sell over 30 million units on the Switch alone, and I believe it sold about 1 to 2 on the Wii U. So for as bad as a failure the Wii U was, Breath of the Wild actually got a good chunk of change for Nintendo based on the Wii U platform alone. And then on the Switch, obviously it made them millions and probably even billions of dollars. So if that was such a success, and Nintendo didn't seem to want to replicate it for the rest of the Switch's life, as there were no other Wii U releases that also coincided with the Switch, why am I so worried today about the Switch and the Switch 2 having too many dual-platform releases? Well, it all starts with a little game known as Metroid Prime 4. I'm sure you know the story by this point. Back in 2017 at Nintendo's E3 presentation, they revealed Metroid Prime 4 to be coming soon. And that soon turned into over 7 years of waiting and restarting the whole project and canceling it and giving it to Retro Studios, which is a whole other story of messed up. And Nintendo had promised this game to the Switch because it was revealed in its very first year. So of course I believe it will be coming out on the Switch, but also on the Switch successor next year. That isn't necessarily a problem in my book, especially considering how they handled Breath of the Wild and that promise on the Wii U and went over to the Switch. I think that is fine, but my only concern is I really hope it's a one-off. Because like I said, with the Wii U, they had certainly had every right to put Breath of the Wild on both that console and the Nintendo Switch. But back then, it made no sense to continue releasing games on the Wii U alongside the Switch because of how much of a failure the Wii U was. But the Switch is their biggest success ever. It's the most profitable console generation they've had, combined with every other console generation prior. It is that successful for them, so it would make sense for them to want to continue releasing games alongside with the Switch successor. But I am really scared about that because look at the other generations and how they've done their dual releases and how that has really hurt console sales for those different companies. The first one I want to look at today is Sony and the PlayStation 5. Here is a list of every single PlayStation 5 exclusive game. This means not games that were also released on the PS4 or games that eventually got ported to PC. Because why would you buy a PlayStation 5 if you already have a computer or a PS4 from 10 years ago? So, here is the list. Astro's Playroom, Demon's Souls, Destruction All-Stars, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Spider-Man 2, Rise of Ronin, and Stellar Blade. As of July 31st, 2024, these 7 games are the only 7 games that are on the PlayStation 5 exclusively. And Astro's Playroom is a free game that comes with every single console. So truly, there are only 6 games that are actually exclusive to the console that Sony is making money off of. So of course Sony is disappointed with their console sales, and of course no one seems to want to buy a PlayStation 5 for its exclusive games, because there really aren't any. I mean, truly, there aren't any games for the PlayStation 5, and the thing is, if this was like a year or 2 in, I would be so much more forgiving of this console and its lineup. But it is 2024. It has been 4 years since the PlayStation 5 released, and they can't muster 7 unique games, more than 7 games for their console? I understand. Putting it on PC gives them a lot of profit. Putting on PlayStation 4 it's a very large install base there that they can make a lot of money off of as well. But you can't say on one side of your mouth, I'm disappointed with the PlayStation 5 sales, and then out of the other, use all of your amazing games for other platforms that aren't exclusive to the PlayStation 5. There's no incentive to buy your console if you're going to put all of these games on other platforms. Me personally, I grew up on Nintendo and all of their amazing games and IP, and I had never really been interested in a PlayStation up until these past couple of years. It wasn't until last Black Friday when I got the Spider-Man edition of PlayStation 5, and I was excited to check out all the games. Now, for someone who has never touched a PlayStation in their life or any of Sony's IP, it's probably a good deal to get the PlayStation 5 and be able to invest in all of those cheaper games from all the previous generations. But if you have been with PlayStation for your entire life, as I have with Nintendo, then why would you ever want to buy a PlayStation 5 knowing you're only going to get to play 6 games that are unique to that console? Of course, fanboys are always going to do that, and there are going to be people who buy the console and probably regret it because of the games, but I just don't understand why Sony is taking this approach, and it scares me to think that Nintendo might do the same thing with their next console. Now, the one thing that Nintendo does have up their sleeve that Sony really didn't is that this next leap is probably going to be a massive graphical difference. The Switch is essentially a Xbox 360 and a PlayStation 3 in terms of graphical fidelity. And Nintendo, in their first-party games, I will give them so much credit here. They have absolutely used it to its limit. Luigi's Mansion 3, Tears of the Kingdom, all of these beautiful games, and all of it has just been pushed to the limit. I am not saying for a second that they can't do all of these amazing games on this type of console hardware, but it is getting to the point where if you want to have any sort of third-party game on your system, you need to have more power. And so all of these rumors and all of these leaks that have come out, all of these reports saying that the Switch successor is going to be a lot more powerful, that seems to be the step up that that Nintendo is going to have above the competition. Because from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 really wasn't a big graphical difference. I know some people will disagree with me on that, but if you look at a PlayStation 4 game and a PlayStation 5 game, they are almost identical, truly. But the difference between Breath of the Wild being on the Switch 1 and the enhanced port it would likely get on the Switch 2 is going to be absolutely staggering. So that is one thing that they have up their sleeves. But then the problem with that is, how are you able to develop games for a console that is so much more powerful than the original, but then also try to make an effort to keep those games on the original platform like the Switch? It is an understandable business decision to want to say, hey, we have over 140 million people who own Nintendo Switches. We make amazing games, and that's why all of these people have bought this console. But also, moving forward, we want to make sure that people are able to seamlessly transition from one console generation to the next. So how do we do that? In my opinion, you do not start that console's life cycle off by saying, hey, all of these amazing games are also going to be playable on your old console, because then there is absolutely no incentive for anyone outside of the Nintendo fanboy club to go out and buy that console, unless it is a lot more powerful, which is why I can see this. I'm kind of going in circles here. I can see why Nintendo would want to do this, because they're like, hey, it doesn't matter, because people are going to want to buy it because they're going to want to be able to play it, and it's going to look a lot better on this system. So I see both sides here, but I think it's too big of a risk to take. Now, Nintendo might be thinking that it's too big of a risk not to develop games simultaneously for both platforms, because why would they want to abandon ship of 140 plus million user install base to go to a different system where they have no idea if people are going to jump on it or not? That's why it's going to be incredibly important to see what form the Switch successor takes before I come to a specific conclusion on whether or not dual platform releases would be good for this upcoming generation. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is the only game I'm willing to say at this point, yes, make it a dual platform release. And obviously at this point we don't know, outside of perhaps Pokemon ZX or whatever that game is going to be, but outside of those, we have absolutely no idea what 2025 is going to look like in terms of Nintendo first-party releases. So, Once that happens, I'll probably make an update video about this and see which ones I think should definitely stay exclusive and which ones should also stay on the Switch. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to jump to any conclusions until I understood fully what the concept of the Switch 2 was going to be and all that, but I am going to say at the end of this video, I think that dual platform releases have a time and a place to be useful. But if you over-rely on your previous install base and don't jump ship to your new console, why would anyone want to buy it? And why would you then look inwardly and say, oh, we're not doing well, we must be doing something wrong? No, it's probably because you're just developing games for both consoles rather than jumping ship to your new one and giving consumers a chance to see that you believe in it. If in 2027 or 2028 the new Zelda game is going to come out on both the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch's successor, I am going to be a very unhappy camper. And that's exactly what Sony had done with their franchises. God of War Ragnarok was a dual release on both PlayStation 4 and 5. Returnal was exclusive to PlayStation 5 but still went to PC. All of these different games, if I was a PlayStation 5 only owner, I would be really upset that all of these games I bought the console specifically for, I didn't even have to buy the console to play them. And that's where I'm going to end it for today because of just how much uncertainty there is with the Nintendo Switch's successor and how that's going to look moving forward. But we'll have to wait and see until then. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video to the very end. I appreciate all of your support. Please let me know all your thoughts about dual platform releases and how the future looks for you down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video, and if you enjoyed today's content, look out for more coming up soon. I make shorts every single day, community posts, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Have a great day.